The mockery begins. The grand arena of Zarnax Prime was packed with aliens from every corner of the galaxy. Thousands of different species sat in their seats, buzzing with excitement. Today was special. Today, a human would fight. Most aliens had only heard stories about humans. Some thought they were weak and soft. Others believed they were wild and unpredictable. But no one really knew what to expect. The arena lights dimmed, and a voice echoed across the sky. Challenger from Earth, Lance Doran. From a steel door, a lone human walked into the arena. He wore no armor, only a sleeveless black suit. No helmet, no shield. In his hands he held two short wooden sticks connected by a chain. The crowd burst into laughter. "Is this a joke?" shouted a tall insectoid warrior. "Are those toys?" laughed a purple-skinned lizard soldier. Even the announcer hesitated, unsure what to say, but the laughter grew loudest when the second fighter entered. Commander Vectira of the Zarnax. Royal Guard stepped forward like a goddess of war. Her armor shimmered like liquid silver forged from starsteel, one of the strongest metals in the galaxy. Her long tail swayed behind her. Her red eyes scanned the human with clear disgust. "This is the best Earth can offer?" she said, her voice sharp. "You bring sticks to a battlefield?" Lance didn't reply. He simply bowed. That made her even angrier. "I've fought warlords, burned armies, and crushed champions. I will not be insulted by this circus act." Again, Lance said nothing. He stood still, holding the nunchucks loosely. His eyes stayed locked on her. Calm, cold. The crowd began chanting her name. "Vectira! Vectira!" The announcer raised his hand. "Begin!" Vectira charged. She moved fast, too fast for most species to follow. Her boots cracked the stone under her feet. Her armored fists aimed straight for Lance's chest. One punch would break his ribs. But Lance moved. He didn't block. He didn't run. He danced. With one fluid motion, he twisted to the side, ducked under her arm, and spun away. The crowd gasped. Vectira growled. "Fluke!" She attacked again. This time with a spinning kick. Her boot, reinforced with plasma plating, could shatter bone. Lance dropped low and rolled forward, coming up behind her. Snap! The nunchucks hit the back of her knee with a loud crack. Her leg buckled. She turned in rage. "Cheap trick." Lance didn't reply. His movements were smooth, controlled, and focused. The nunchucks spun in a blur, humming softly through the air. Vectira threw a punch. He blocked it with the wooden sticks. Wood versus starsteel. Crack! Her gauntlet split. The arena went silent. Impossible. Starsteel didn't break. But it had cracked. Vectira stared at her broken armor, then at him. "What are those made of?" Lance finally spoke. Just one word. "Practice." She screamed and launched a full-body attack. Punches, kicks, tail strikes. She used everything. But Lance flowed like water. Each movement had purpose. He struck her elbow. Armor shattered. He spun and hit her thigh. Armor fell away. He flipped over her and slammed both sticks down on her shoulders. Boom! Her chest plate exploded into pieces. She fell to one knee panting, her armor in ruins. The crowd was dead silent. All that was left were sparks, broken steel, and the human, standing tall without a scratch. He didn't raise his arms. He didn't celebrate. He simply looked down at her and said, "You shouldn't laugh at what you don't understand." Vectira stared at him in disbelief. For the first time in her life, she felt small, weak, defeated. Then, something unexpected. She smiled. Slow, respectful smile, and nodded. The secret training of Earth. The galaxy talked about the fight for days. On warships, in alien taverns, on deep space forums, they all asked the same thing. How did a human with 2 sticks break starsteel? Back on Earth, in a dark room deep under a ruined warehouse, an old man watched the replay again and again. His fingers trembled slightly as he paused the footage right at the moment Lance shattered the gauntlet. "Just like I taught him," the man whispered. His name was Master Kenji Tanaka, a retired martial artist from the slums of Neo-Tokyo. Once, his students performed in street shows to earn money, but after Earth made contact with alien civilizations, Everything changed. Martial arts were no longer games, they became survival. Earth knew it was weak, technologically behind, outgunned, outnumbered. So while other nations built spaceships and weapons, a hidden network of dojos formed a secret mission: turn human weakness into unexpected strength. Kenji trained fighters in silence, away from media and politics. He taught rhythm, timing, pressure, points, ancient techniques refined for alien opponents. Lance Doran had been his best. But Lance never wanted glory. He had only one reason to train: his brother. Flashback. 3 years ago, a city burned under a red sky. Smoke choked the air. Alien raiders had come through a faulty jump gate and took hundreds of humans, Lance's younger brother among them. The government called it an unfortunate diplomatic misunderstanding. Lance called it kidnapping. He begged for help. No one listened, so he went underground. He fought in illegal rings, challenged alien mercs, learned alien weaknesses, and in the shadows Master Kenji reshaped his body and mind. "You don't fight like a soldier," Kenji had said. "You move like wind. That's what Nunchaku need. Not power. Flow." Present day. After the arena, Match Lance sat alone in a guest chamber on the Zarnak station. No guards, no chains, just silence. They hadn't arrested him yet, but they also hadn't explained why they hadn't. The door opened. A small alien entered, pale green with wide eyes and a translator unit around its neck. "Excuse me," it said. "The High Council would like to understand your weapon and your training." Lance raised an eyebrow. "Why?" The alien hesitated. "Because the Council believes you might not be a threat to Commander Vectira, but to the entire Order." Lance leaned back, silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, "I'm only looking for one person." The alien tilted its head. "Who?" "My brother." Meanwhile, on the other side of the station, Vectira stood before a line of angry Zarnax generals. Her pride still burned from the humiliation, but something deeper troubled her. "I don't understand," she said. "He didn't dodge like a soldier. He moved like music." One general snarled, "He must have used hidden tech." "No," Vectira said firmly. "There was no tech, no tricks, just movement I couldn't predict. My body trained for war, but he was fighting, in a way I've never seen." Another general spoke up. "Then perhaps the fault was with you." Her eyes flared. "Challenge me again. I'll show you my worth." The room fell silent. "Very well," the lead general said slowly. "But this time, you will wear the neurobonded armor. Let's see if human sticks can defeat living steel." Back in his room, Lance unwrapped the cloth around his nunchaku. The wood was old, dented, scarred, but strong. He whispered, "Soon, Eli. I'll find you." And as the lights dimmed outside his window, something moved in the shadows. A new enemy, watching him, recording him, preparing. Zarnax Council demands a rematch. The footage was locked, yet it leaked. Across the stars, millions watched the human break a warrior's armor with nothing but spinning sticks. Again and again, in slow motion, in heat maps, in pulse-tracking overlays. It was not just a fight, it was a warning. The Zarnax High Council panicked. "This human," one of the elders hissed, "is a walking threat. We cannot let other species think we are vulnerable to a primitive species." The council chamber was buried deep in the capital tower of Zarnax Prime. The walls were pulsing crystal, changing colors with the speaker's emotions. Now they glowed a deep, angry red. Commander Vectira stood in the center of the chamber, head bowed, fists clenched. She had not been punished for her failure. No, something worse had happened. She had become a question mark. Some now whispered, she let the human win. Some said she froze out of fear. Others called her armor defective. But she knew the truth. He had been faster, smarter, unlike anything she'd trained for. Still, she would not live with shame. "Let me fight him again," she said without being asked. "I want a rematch, but this time, I won't hold back." The counselors looked at each other. Then the grand speaker turned to her. "We accept, but you will wear this." A pod opened from the floor. Inside, black and silver tendrils moved, like liquid snakes. The neurobonded armor, a prototype. "It bonds to your nervous system," the grand speaker said. "It will move before you think. It will turn instinct into reaction. You will be unstoppable." "And the risks?" she asked. "If you lose control," he said simply, "it will eat you from the inside." She smiled. "Good." Meanwhile, deep inside the Zarnax archives, a figure in a dark cloak slipped between laser grids and sleeping guards. The Oltari spy moved like a shadow, scanning holograms of Lance Doran's match. He tapped a communicator. "The human is not a fluke. He is a prototype." A voice responded through the comms. "Then the others will follow?" The spy nodded. "If Earth has more like him, they are not just a backwater species. They are evolving. Fast," the voice said. "Then make sure this one does not survive his next fight." Inside Lance's quarters, he couldn't sleep. He sat cross-legged, his eyes closed, the nunchaku resting across his lap. He wasn't meditating. He was listening to the hum of the walls, the change in airflow. The footsteps he knew didn't belong to his guards. Someone was outside the door. He stood, picked up the nunchucks, and waited. The door opened. But instead of an enemy, it was Vectira. She stepped in alone, not wearing armor. Just a simple training suit. "You will fight me again," she said, eyes hard. "It's already decided." Lance didn't react. She studied his calm posture, his relaxed grip on the wooden sticks. No fear, no pride, just readiness. "You're not like the others," she said quietly. He looked at her. "Neither are you." She hesitated. That simple answer struck something deep inside her. "I will be wearing the neurobonded armor," she said. "If I lose control, it could kill us both." Lance nodded. "Then I'll have to end the fight before that happens." She laughed once, dry and short. "You're insane." "No," he said. "Just human." The rematch turns deadly. The arena was no longer a place of laughter. This time there were no cheers, no jokes, no mocking, only silence and fear. Everyone had seen what the human did last time. But now, both fighters were different. Commander Vectira stood tall, her body wrapped in living metal. The neurobonded armor pulsed with dark energy, reacting to her every thought before she even moved. Her eyes no longer burned with pride. They burned with focus. Across from her, Lance Doran rolled his shoulders calmly. Same outfit, same nunchucks, but his posture had changed, like he was about to walk through a storm, not a fight. A storm only he understood. A low hum filled the air. The crowd leaned in. The announcer's voice trembled. "Combatants ready." A long pause. Then, "Begin." Vectira vanished. To the untrained eye, she simply disappeared. But Lance moved too, ducking low, nunchaku spinning into a blur. Clang. The first blow could have shattered titanium, but Lance blocked it. Barely. She was fast, too fast. Her punches came like lightning, every strike echoed with sonic booms. She was no longer a warrior. She was a weapon. Lance spun, dodged, twisted in impossible angles. But the armor learned. Every move he made, it adapted. The second time she attacked, she nearly broke his ribs. The third time, his arm went numb. Lance backed off, breathing hard. His body was already bruising. He stared at her. But she wasn't just fighting him. She was losing herself. Inside the armor, Vectira's heartbeat pounded in her ears. The armor responded faster than her thoughts. Her limbs felt electric, powerful, but not fully hers anymore. The line between control and chaos blurred. Suddenly, she screamed, not from pain, but from a flood of unwanted emotion. The armor had started reading deeper instincts, and it didn't just want to win, it wanted to kill. Flashback, inside the lab, where the armor was built. One scientist whispered to another, "We warned them. The neural mesh doesn't just link to the body, it links to buried emotion, rage, fear, desire." Back in the arena, Vectira charged again, but Lance didn't strike. He did something no one expected. He dropped the nunchaku and stood still. She froze, mid-attack. The armor fought to continue, but something inside her hesitated. "You're not the armor," Lance said, calm but firm. "And I'm not your enemy." Her breath caught in her throat. "You're lying," she snarled. "No," he said. "I've been hunted. I know what it's like to lose yourself trying to protect someone." The armor twitched, her fists clenched, she screamed and rushed forward again. This time, Lance didn't dodge. He stepped into the blow, her punch connected, and the armor shattered itself. A wave of raw neural backlash exploded outward. Both fighters flew across the arena. Silence. Dust floated in the air, debris covered the ground. Vectira lay still, her armor in pieces around her. Sparks flickered across her back. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes wide and confused. Lance was unconscious. Blood ran from his mouth, but his hands were still clenched, bruised, but alive. Medics rushed in, and for the second time, the galaxy stared in disbelief. He didn't win with power. He won by breaking through something stronger than armor. Fear. Enemies become partners. The room smelled like fire and medicine. Dim lights blinked softly as machines beeped around Lance's bed. He didn't move. His face was pale, his ribs wrapped, his hands bruised. A nurse bot hovered beside him, dripping medicine into his arm. Across the glass wall, Commander Vectira watched him. Silently, her once proud armor was now melted scrap, locked in a containment cube. She wore a plain robe now. No medals, no weapons. Just silence. For the first time since she became a warrior, she didn't know what she was. The door hissed open behind her. "You're not supposed to be here," the alien medic whispered. "He needs rest." Vectira didn't look back. "I know, but I had to see him." Hours later, inside the room, Lance opened his eyes slowly. The first thing he saw was her, sitting beside his bed, arms folded, staring. He flinched. "Easy," she said quickly. "You're safe." He coughed. "Did I win?" She tilted her head. "You nearly died. Again. That's your version of victory?" He smiled weakly. "Depends who's keeping score." There was a long pause. Then softly she said, "I lost control." He looked at her, eyes steady. "I know. That armor wasn't built for someone with your fire." "I almost killed you," she admitted, "but you didn't," he replied. "You pulled back." "No," she said. "You pulled me back." A quiet moment. For a full minute, they just sat there. The tension between them had changed. No longer enemy versus enemy, but not quite friends. Just two fighters who saw each other now without armor. Vectira finally spoke again. "Why didn't you kill me?" Lance's eyes went distant. "Because I've seen what revenge turns people into. I didn't come here for blood, I came to find my brother." Her expression softened. "The one taken by raiders?" He nodded. "I've lost family too," she said quietly. "My sister. During a border purge. That's why I fight." Lance looked at her with something new in his eyes, understanding. They weren't so different after all. Elsewhere on the station, the real threat watches in a shadowed command room. The Oltari spy reviewed the battle footage again. Frame by frame. "Curious," he whispered. "The human could have killed her. Twice." He tapped a screen, zooming in on Lance's face. But he chose mercy. A second alien, taller and more sinister, stepped forward. Then he's more dangerous than we thought. He doesn't fight for glory. He fights for something personal. The spy nodded. Which means we can use it. They turned to a holomap of alien sectors. A single red dot blinked, a prison ship drifting in deep space. Subject, Elias Doran. Status, alive. Back in the medical bay, Vectira stood to leave. But before she stepped out, Lance asked, "Why are you really here?" She paused, one hand on the door. Then, without turning around, she said, "Because no one ever saved me from myself until now." The door closed softly behind her, and Lance, alone again, whispered, "Then maybe it's not over yet." The real enemy reveals itself. The lights flickered across the outer decks of the Zarnak station. Security bots ran in silent patrols, unaware that death had already arrived. A single alien ship, small, silent, cloaked in bending light, latched onto the station's underbelly like a parasite. From it emerged 3 Oltari assassins, cloaked in shadow and wrapped in skins that erased their presence from sensors. Their orders were clear: kill the human, and if necessary, eliminate the commander who now stands beside him. Inside the stations, War Room Vectira stared at a blinking star map. "I've searched every trade route, every slaver dock. No sign of your brother." Lance stood behind her, tired but healing. What if he's off the map, hidden by someone powerful? She turned to face him. Then we find someone more powerful. They were no longer just talking like soldiers. They were planning like partners. That's when the room went dark, all screens black. The hum of the station's power vanished. Emergency lights flickered red, and then, bang, a sharp sound at the edge of the hallway. Vectira drew her blade. Lance raised his nunchaku. Both moved without a word. In the shadows of the station, the Oltari moved like smoke. One assassin entered the ventilation shaft above the medical bay. Another slithered along the ceiling of the weapons hold. The third, taller than the rest, eyes like molten glass, headed straight for the war room. He had studied the human. He knew the rhythms of his breathing, the limits of his movement. But he didn't expect what he found. Back in the hall, Lance moved fast. He ducked a spinning blade and snapped his nunchaku forward, catching the assassin's wrist. Vectira leapt high, kicking the enemy across the hall. But the alien didn't fall. It twisted mid-air, landing on all fours like an animal. It hissed. "You should have died in that arena, human." Lance smirked. "Yeah, people keep saying that." The fight exploded into motion. Steel clashed with wood. Sparks danced across the corridor. The Oltari's tech was advanced, but Lance had something better. Instinct. While Vectira held off one attacker, Lance faced the tall one. The leader. "I saw what you did to our warlord," the Oltari said coldly. "You're not a soldier. You're a virus." Lance didn't blink. "Then it's infection time." He struck hard. The nunchaku moved like lightning. 3 hits, 4, 5. But the alien adapted fast, too fast, until Vectira screamed. He turned too late. One assassin had stabbed her in the side. She fell to her knees. Blood spilled across the floor. Lance snapped. In a second, his calm was gone. The assassin grinned, until Lance moved faster than he ever had before. The nunchaku didn't spin this time. They punished. Crack, crack, crack. In under 7 seconds, the alien was on the floor, armor broken, mouth leaking black fluid. The last assassin fled. Aftermath. Lance knelt beside Vectira. "Stay with me." Her breathing was sharp, painful, but her grip was strong. "You didn't run." He looked into her eyes. "You're not just my partner now. You're my friend." She smiled even through blood. "You're still an idiot." Elsewhere, deep in the Oltari ship, the spy watched the failed mission from a holofeed. They survived. The second voice behind him was sharper. Then, "Bring the final card." The spy activated a file on it, a photo of a young man in chains. eyes bruised, hair ragged, Elias Doran. The final plan was now in motion, and next time, they wouldn't send assassins, they'd send family. The final duel and her true honor, it started with a voice, weak, familiar, echoing from a hidden speaker deep in Lance's quarters. "Lance, is that you?" His heart stopped. He ran to the console. The screen flickered to life, showing a pale face, bruised eyes, and a familiar voice, shaking through static. Elias. Alive, imprisoned, and calling for help. Then the voice of a stranger cut in. "You want him? Come take him. Alone." The signal ended. The location blinked on the screen. A derelict battlefield moon, orbiting a dead star. A trap, and Lance didn't care. Hours later, the moon of Solvex, 9 rained from the sky. Ruins covered the old war zone, like broken bones. Blackened towers, empty tanks, skulls crushed into the dust. Lance stood alone in the wind. No armor, no army, just Nunchaku, and the quiet storm inside him. From across the field, the Oltari spy appeared, dragging Elias by the collar. The boy was thin but alive, eyes wide with disbelief. "Lance, let him go," Lance said. The spy smiled. "After you survive me." Behind him, 4 elite Oltari soldiers stepped out, blades humming with poison light. But before they could strike, Vectira landed from the sky. Her ship roared overhead as she dropped, holding a blade in each hand. One eye was still bruised from her wound, but her fire had returned. "I said you weren't going alone," she growled. Lance smiled. "Took you long enough." The final duel began. Blades clashed. Nunchaku cracked skulls. The battlefield turned into a dance of chaos and honor. Vectira moved like a whirlwind, cutting down 2 soldiers. Lance fought like thunder, disarming another with precision, but the spy was faster than all. He grabbed Elias and held a knife to his throat. One step closer, and the boy dies. Everyone froze. Lance looked at his brother, then stepped forward. "Anyway, do it," he said, "but just know, you won't live past the next 10 seconds. The spy hesitated, and in that hesitation Elias bit his hand. Hard. The blade dropped. Vectira struck. The spy fell, stunned, and Lance finished it. One clean blow that echoed across the old battlefield. Silence. Dust settled. The war was over. Lance knelt beside Elias. "You okay?" Elias nodded, crying. "I knew you'd come." Later, back on the station, a ceremony was held in Lance's honor, but he refused medals. Instead, he stood before the crowd and called Vectira to his side. "She fought beside me," he said. "She saved my brother, and she taught me what honor looks like in alien skin." The crowd roared, and for the first time in Zarnax's history, a human and a Zarnax warrior bowed to each other. Not in combat, but in friendship. Vectira whispered to him, "You broke my armor once." He smiled. "And you tore through my doubts." Final scene. Earth orbit. Months later. Lance stood beside Vectira, watching Earth from a ship's window. Elias slept peacefully behind them. "What now?" she asked. "We train," Lance said. "We teach the next ones, because war isn't coming." He turned to her. "It's already here." She smirked. "Then let them fear what 2 warriors can do." And together they walked forward, into legend.